Hey, friends. I want to talk to you all today about my home area of Branson, Missouri, and some things going on there. And I just want to warn everybody up front this will be a heavy subject involving children. If you need to protect your mental health and skip this one, please do. However, if you can watch this one and share it, in my opinion, it's vital that this information gets out. So, if you've ever been to Branson, Missouri, something that you'll probably be aware of is it has a reputation for being a very, very clean place. It is Christian themed, and large churches and large families feel very, very comfortable letting their children be free there, especially at the theme parks, at the shows, and they treat it like an extension of their church family. Now, this reputation, for a large part, in my opinion, is not completely undeserved because while the reputation of Southwest Missouri and Branson specifically has been gentrified and sanitized by people who move in and realize that this is something that they could sell more and better, most people traversing Branson would not fully understand or guess that the city was built on blood and moonshine. But the people of the area, my people, are known for being a very conservative, clean living type of people, in spite of their moonshining past. So, with this reputation of being such a clean, safe place, I feel like what a lot of people ignore is people who hone in on clean, safe places are also predators. They like to blend in and move into the middle of them in order to have access to everybody being so free and feeling very safe with their children. Now, an example of this that you might be familiar with is Camp Kanakuk from Branson. Vice News did an interview and put out a video on this 4 years ago. They interviewed survivors, victims there of CSA. It turns out a certain camp counselor there was doing things with the young boys, the children, such as naked basketball playing, one on one sleepovers, hot tub time, naked, and other much worse things. And it was reported to management apparently over and over. And they decided they need to help this man get back to God and give him an action plan. They did not decide they needed to protect the children coming to the camp. This has recently went viral again because Sean Ryan talked about it. I encourage you to look that up and the Vice News article because Sean Ryan recently said 4 years ago this video was made on Vice, and here we are today. Some of the parents that were interviewed said people still want to send their children to Camp Kanakuk whenever they are warned by these parents whose child experienced horrific things. And something they say often is, okay, but what's the problem there today? That guy's in prison. So, what's the problem there today? The issue is the same people are in charge of it who chose for years to try to offer Christian forgiveness to the abuser and not to protect the children. They're still in charge. There's a website. It's called Facts About Kanakuk, an evangelical empire built on ABUSE. And I encourage everybody to take a look at that. Now, recently, some positive movement is that some Missouri senators, Brad Hudson, thank you, Brad, and Brian Seats, thank you, Brian, got a law put through named after a Kanakuk survivor who sadly unalived himself. It's called Trey's Law, and it makes it illegal for people who are settling ABUSE lawsuits, specifically child ones, to be forcing an NDA that prevents them talking about it. It makes that illegal, and that is a wonderful, wonderful thing. What that has done is freed up some survivors to speak of other issues, not at Kanakuk. So let's take a listen to one of them. Now, the government is looking at trying to pass Trey's Law federally, which I personally think would be an amazing thing that would help out the Epstein victims. It would have helped them out a lot. And that is why some of the survivors are speaking with Ted Cruz at a conference here. And I realize Ted Cruz is polarizing. Some may love him, some may absolutely hate him. I'm personally not a huge fan of Ted Cruz. However, I appreciate the fact that he is giving these survivors a platform and trying to push this law. I feel like cases like Epstein and what happens in Branson, and these things are stuff where agreeing with someone's politics overall shouldn't matter. We should be able to agree on this one thing. And I think the survivors should work with any politician who's willing to give them a platform and push for protections. Now let's take a listen, friends.
Good morning. First, I want to thank these co sponsors for their leadership and in filing Trey's law at the federal level. My name is Jaden Harris. I'm 19 years old, and I'm here today not just as a child sexual abuse survivor from Branson, Missouri, but as someone whose voice was protected by Trey's law. It's why I can be here today. When I came forward about the abuse I experienced, I was prepared for it to be difficult. What I wasn't prepared for was the intimidation, not only from my abuser, but from my own lawyer to sign a non-disclosure agreement in exchange for restitution during a mediation process. I was alone when it came to fighting for my voice. It was both my abuser and my lawyer that tried to require me to sign an NDA, a contractual clause that would have restricted my ability to speak about the details of what happened to me for the rest of my life. Imagine being told you can never tell your own truth. Despite the bullying from my attorney and all those involved in the case, in my heart I knew I had to stand for truth. Not just for myself, but for others who feel they have been silenced. I'm standing here today with my voice because Trey's law protected it as a matter of public policy, and I was able to achieve settlement while preserving my ability to speak out in hope of protecting others. Due to learning about Trey's law in Missouri, I knew something important. I cannot be legally forced into silence. No agreement could take away my right to speak about my own experience and those responsible for the abuse. That legal right changed everything. It shifted the balance in power. It meant that any resolution would not come at the cost of me owning my story. Not only is having a voice essential to my healing journey, but it's also how I can warn others. My abuser is still out in public every day. He goes by the name Reza. He is a well-known entertainer in Branson who still has a magic show, and I'm concerned about ongoing victimization. The criminal justice system has done nothing to remove him from being around children. So I'm going to do something. I'm speaking out today, and I'm advocating the law that protected me to protect victims everywhere. Federal action on Trey's law is critical. A survivor's freedom of speech should not depend on geography. I am fortunate that Trey's law had passed in Missouri and allowed me to keep my voice. But someone's zip code should not determine whether they can tell the truth and warn the public about predators. This needs to be national. Trey's law is straightforward but powerful. It makes non-disclosure agreements in cases of child sexual abuse void and unenforceable. It ensures that secrecy cannot be purchased when a child has been harmed. It affirms that survivors can be seen, heard, and believed, and that's in the best interest of public safety. What almost happened to me, signing away my voice, should never be an option in this country. I am grateful to be a part of today's important milestone in making that happen and setting truth free. Thank you.
So, because of the freedom that she was given by Trey's law, she was able to tell us who is a problem. And from what I understand, this person is very litigious. So, all I'm going to do is read the Wikipedia entry, and then I'm going to read a newspaper article. This article has been removed. Like I said, it appears from what I've seen, possibly that this person is very litigious. However, I was able to find the article in the Wayback Machine. So let's take a look at these things, friends. This is the Wikipedia page of the person she named, who has a magic show in Branson. He's from Brookings, South Dakota, and came to Branson to do his show there. So we're going to read this section. Civil litigation. In early 2025, two former employees of Borchart's production, Reza, Edge of Illusion, filed a lawsuit against him in Taney County Circuit Court, Missouri. The plaintiffs, Katie Scarlett Vanderkar and Jaden L. Harris, allege that Borchart engaged in sexual misconduct and grooming towards them while they were 17-year-old minors in his employment. Borchardt was approximately 36 years old at the time of the alleged conduct. The suit named as defendants Borchardt, Skyline Entertainment LLC, Branson Theater LLC, Gracie Gray Entertainment LLC, and State Farm Fire and Casualty. Alleged causes of action included negligent infliction of emotional distress, negligent hiring, negligent retention, negligent supervision, and violations of the Missouri Human Rights Act. Branson illusionist Reza Borchardt settles $5 million suit, is an article referenced here by Missouri Lawyers Media. That one requires a subscription I don't have, so I'm not able to read that one, although it's still up. According to court filings, Borchardt allegedly sent hundreds of extremely sexually explicit messages to the plaintiffs via Snapchat and Instagram using the application's disappearing message feature. The filing further alleged that he threatened the plaintiffs' employments, tracked their movements through phone applications, made disparaging comments about them to coworkers, and deleted messages from their cell phones. The trial brief filed by plaintiff's attorney Samuel Went states that Borchardt used his position of power, both as an adult and as their work superior, to engage in inappropriate sexual contact with the minor children on numerous occasions. Reza, accused of breach of contract over sexual misconduct settlement, is another article referenced here from Branson Tri-Lakes News, July 28th, 2025. Now, when I go to that page, as you can see, it's gone. But have no fear, friends, the Wayback Machine is here. So here is the article from the Wayback Machine. We're just going to read it. July 26, 2025. Reza is accused of inappropriate behavior in a lawsuit filed in Taney County. A civil lawsuit in Taney County Court is accusing a Branson entertainer of thwarting a settlement agreement related to accusations of improper sexual conduct and behavior he allegedly had with two women, beginning when each woman was under the age of 18. The lawsuit names as defendants Reza Borchardt, Skyline Entertainment LLC, Branson Theater LLC, Gracie Gray Entertainment LLC, and State Farm Fire and Casualty. A trial brief filed by Samuel Went, attorney for the plaintiff, states his clients had made claims against Borchardt and associated entities for negligent infliction of emotional distress, negligent hiring, negligent retention, negligent supervision, and violations of the Missouri Human Rights Act stemming from lewd and lascivious sexual communications, conduct, and contact with the plaintiffs, who were associated with defendants' entertainment enterprise, Reza Edge of Illusion. The filing also states that the two women were 17 years old at the time of the incidents, while Borchardt himself was approximately 36 years old. The brief claims Borchardt began systematically grooming the minor children through a range of behaviors, including personal interactions and written communications, with the intention of facilitating sexual contact and preventing disclosure to others. It states he sent extremely sexually explicit messages through apps like Snapchat and Instagram using vanish mode, as well as videos and photographs. The brief also alleges that Borchardt threatened their jobs, made denigrating comments about them to the women's coworkers, and acted in a jealous manner if the women interacted with others. He is also accused of tracking the women's movements through apps and deleting messages from the women's cell phones. After successfully grooming plaintiffs over a period of months, defendant Borchardt used his position of power both as an adult and as their work superior to engage in inappropriate sexual contact with the minor children on numerous occasions, the brief reads. Court documents indicate State Farm Insurance Agency agreed to pay settlements in the case to each of the women, $3 million to one, $2 million to the other, but that Borchardt and his counsel sought to block payments unless and until confidentiality agreements prevented the women from discussing the matter were signed. Despite an offer of $50,000 in additional compensation, the women reportedly declined to sign the non-disclosure agreements. Instead, they sued for breach of contract when the approved settlements were not fulfilled. The brief also mentions the recently passed Trey's Law proposed by State Senator Brad Hudson and Representative Brian Seats, both of whom represent Branson, and signed into law by Missouri Governor Mike Cahoe. Trey's Law prevents non disclosure agreements related to childhood sexual abuse actions from being enforceable by Missouri courts. The brief notes that the women never agreed to or signed non disclosure agreement, but if they had, those agreements would not be enforceable under Missouri law. Wynn's filing indicates that the women are owed an additional $221,917 in interest on the settlements, which should have been paid to them on February 7th, 2025. The women also asked for Borchardt and the other defendants to pay all of the women's attorney fees. Just this week, Borchardt's counsel filed a motion to have the security level of the court filings related to this matter raised so that only the involved party and their counsel would have access. In that filing, it was argued that allowing the public to have access to these alleged messages would potentially cause damage and embarrassment to defendant Borchardt. On Friday, July 25th, legal counsel for the Branson Tri-Lakes News filed a motion arguing against blocking access to case information. It reads in part, even if the briefs contain embarrassing fact, that does not justify removing these documents from public view. Virtually every lawsuit filed involves disputed facts and facts that one party may find unflattering. The newspaper, its reporting staff, its readers, and other attorneys, and the public have the right and the responsibility to analyze the legal parties' arguments and evidence. A hearing on this matter is scheduled for Monday, July 28th, and the bench trial regarding the breach of contract begins Wednesday, August 6th, before presiding Judge Jeffrey Merrill at the Taney County Courthouse. And then it gives a link to the trial brief filed by the women's attorney here. The link for the trial brief still works, so a link will be included in my description of this and the other websites that I've mentioned. So if anyone wants to read that, it's no problem. You can access it right there. I'm going to restrain myself from giving additional commentary for the reasons previously stated, but I would like to know what y'all think. Let me know in the comments, friends, and have a good day. We'll go out with a palate cleanser.